presentation, you will learn about Pandita Ramabai. Pandita Ramabai was one of India's most influential women reformers. She was born on 23rd April 1858 in her father's ashram. She was one of the few social reformers who helped to introduce progressive thought in the country. Her core contribution was that she condemned patriarchy and worked for women's right to education. She is recognized as a renowned scholar, educator, and feminist who broke the society barriers and expectations. Pandita Ramabai founded the Arya Mahila Samaj on 30th November 1882 with the objective of empowering women to lead a dignified life. She paved the way for the welfare and education of Indian widows and challenged social norms and became a champion of women's rights throughout the country. She was born as Ramabai Dongre into an intellectual Brahmin family. Her father believed that women should have an education and against traditional Hindu social norms, he taught Ramabai how to read and write Sanskrit. While she was still very young, her family was thrown into abject poverty and became religious vagrants traveling across the Indian subcontinent and learning many of its languages. She lost both her parents and sister and brother to starvation. Her expertise in Sanskrit and recitation at the age of 20 impressed the Brahmins of Calcutta, so they conferred the title of Pandita, the feminine of Pandit or Sanskrit scholar, and Saraswati after examination by the faculty of University of Calcutta. Later, she married a Shudra. Such a marriage would have been impossible before the Civil Marriage Act of 1872. Ramabai's husband died less than 2 years afterwards, leaving her with a daughter. In the first year of widowhood, she did three significant things. She founded the Arya Mahila Samaj, a society of high caste Hindu women working for women's education and against child marriage. Secondly, she published her first book, Stri Dharmaniti or the Morals for Women. Thirdly, she appeared before the Hunter Commission on Education in India, an inquiry set up by the British government. 2 years after being guided by Shetlandham's exceptional Dorothy Beale, Ramabai went to the United States to attend the graduation ceremony of Anandibai Joshi from the Women's Medical College of Philadelphia. Ramabai was introduced to the world of late 19th century American feminism. Inspired by the movements, she came up with the idea of establishing a school for Hindu widows. The objective of writing her book was to raise funds for establishing institutions for emancipation of women. She traveled across the United States lecturing and organizing Ramabai circles to generate funds. While she worked in association with American philanthropists and educators, Ramabai reflected on popular ideas related to women in the Indian context and realized that they were very problematic. Pandita Ramabai's book, The High Caste Hindu Woman, was a reflection of the oppressed and suppressed lives of upper caste Hindu women. Meera Kosambi considered the book to be so influential that she declared it as an unofficial Indian feminist manifesto. The book was published in 1887 in the United States and within a year of its publication sold over 9,000 copies. The High Caste Hindu Woman presented Indian society to Americans, the plight of women in traditional upper caste Indian society through analytical arguments. However, the task of preparing the high caste Hindu woman was far from easy. She loved her nation, her culture, and was an iconoclast. The book depicts every stage of a high caste woman's life, beginning with childhood, married life, woman's place in religion and society, widowhood, and how the condition of women tells upon society. The book ends with an appeal to raise the institution for girls and women who are deprived from education and consequently lack many opportunities for building their lives. As a founder of Mukti Mission, after her return from America, Ramabai started widow homes in Pune. In Kedgaon, she envisioned opening institutions which would provide vocational training to girls such as teachers, governesses, nurses, homekeepers, printing press, farming, etc. She drew from her own life experiences as a young widow and furthered her commitment for providing the means of survival to widows. In 1896, during a severe famine, Ramabai traveled across villages of Maharashtra, rescuing thousands of children, child widows, orphans, and destitute women, and sheltered them at Mukti and Sharda Sadan. The book The High Caste Hindu Woman reflected Ramabai's commitment to India's high caste child widows. The book talks about the plight of these women and girls in the most culturally sensitive way. She states that when women are married off as children, they usually live with their husband's family. If the husband dies at a young age, the child widow is often blamed for the death and subject to hatred by the family, as is prescribed by particular interpretation of Hindu scriptures. In High Caste Hindu Women, Ramabai provides a detailed account of the young widow's plight. The widow is required to wear a single coarse garment, red, white, or brown. She is entitled to only one meal a day. She is forbidden from attending family feasts and should refrain from showing herself to people on auspicious occasions and is considered as a bad omen. Ramabai exposed the shallow customs and traditions with critical evaluation and analysis. She argues the evil practices from a historical perspective and points out the decline in women's freedom with regard to social institutions. Conversion to Christianity. In September 1883, Ramabai converted to Christianity. This shocked the Indian community as conversion of a Brahmin woman from a highly respected family with orthodox learning was not accepted easily. Her conversion came at a point where she had received immense spiritual support and aid from her Christian community. Her conversion also needs to be understood against the context of her upbringing in a traditional upper caste Hindu society. Since she had exposed the dominance of patriarchal structures of the Hindu caste society, she had to face the consequences of betraying her caste and community and was relegated to the margins of official histories of Western India, especially Maharashtra. Her contribution to feminism. Ramabai was clear in her lifelong refusal to conform to patriarchal norms and resolute commitment to equality and justice. Meera Kosambi has provided an analytical perspective of Ramabai's writings and its impact on the Western world. Kosambi observes that what lent Ramabai's contribution as highly potent is that this writing came from a woman, a solitary and largely unsupported Indian woman who named the systemic problems of the oppressed Indian woman. The attempt to trace her entire register is a project of retrieval of her significant texts, her multiple ideological evolutions, and the intricacies of her feminism. This is also an understanding of feminism within the intersecting and sometimes conflicting structures of patriarchy, religion, nationalism, and internationalism. Pandita Ramabai was a scholar, feminist, and educator who broke the shackles and expectations as a woman living in the 19th century India. She was a pioneer of women's education and a champion of women's rights and empowerment. She saw caste as a major flaw in Hindu society, and coupled with patriarchy, it became a lethal weapon used to subjugate women. She challenged patriarchy and rallied for women's rights. As a keen social analyst, she believed that caste associations promoted narrow self-interest and prevented the development of a democratic spirit in the real sense. Ramabai believed in Western arguments for progress and development of Indian women. She was one of India's most influential women reformers. She paved the way for the welfare and education of Indian widows and challenged social norms and became a champion of women's rights throughout the country. While she worked in association with American philanthropists and educators, Ramabai reflected on popular ideas related to women in the Indian context and realized that they were very problematic. The high caste Hindu woman presented Indian society to Americans the plight of women in traditional upper caste Indian society through analytical arguments. I hope you now know a little more about Pandita Ramabai. Thank you for watching the presentation. Do like, subscribe, share, and leave your comments about this presentation or any other topics you would like to learn more about.